So on tomorrow's quiz, you're going to have 5 of these questions where I give you an equation and you have to graph. So I might pick one of these 3. I might pick all 3. I don't know, but there's going to be a total of 5. I might also pick these guys down here. It's another 3 graphing questions. And I also could select from the previous page of notes that had homework on the back. Anyway, let's get ready for the first part of the quiz by graphing these guys. Okay? So number 1, what's step 1? And you could look at your notes if you want. Step 1 to graphing a parabola is what? Find the vertex, right? So let's do this. Let's put a V, and a vertex is really a coordinate. So there's my coordinate. Now, how do I find the vertex? I'm going to find the vertex by using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. And the best way to do that is to use parentheses. So that's what I did. Here's my formula, negative b over 2a. I put negative parentheses over 2 times parentheses. And we need to be able to look at the equation and identify the a value, which is negative 1, the b value, which is not there, and the c value, which happens to be 2. Okay? So keep in mind, guys, a standard form quadratic trinomial equation is this. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So you get your a, b, and c, the numbers that are in that and those positions. So if you're looking for a b value, which is supposed to be with x, there is no x. There's an a value, so the b is 0 because there is no b value. So I'm going to plug in 0 right there. And then I'm going to plug in the a value of negative 1. And as you can see, 0, or negative 0 if you want to call it, divided by negative 2 is still going to be what? It's still going to be 0. So we found out that x equals 0. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the vertex x value is 0. Now, how do I find my y value if I already know my x value? You plug it in. And I'll be honest with you, you could do this in your head, because plugging in 0 is the easiest, right? Plug in 0 right here, and it's going to be 0 squared with the negative in front. It's still 0. And then 0 plus 2 is 2. As a matter of fact, anytime you plug in 0, your output is going to be your c value in a standard form quadratic trinomial equation, or even quadratic binomial equation. So anytime you plug in 0, your output's going to be the c value, in this case positive 2. Now, I could have shown my work. I didn't do it because it's so easy. Now let me graph the vertex. The vertex is 0, 2. It's right here. Everybody with me? Okay. Now right through that vertex, what do I need to draw? Axis of symmetry. All right. So let me do the dotted line right through that vertex. Even though it's kind of obvious it's the y-axis. But see, when I draw the axis of symmetry, that'll help remind me that I could reflect points. So if I get this point right here, I could reflect it onto the other side. That's going to help us save time. So I need more points. How do I find more points in any function? That's right, xy table. And what numbers would be easy to plug in? The easiest number to plug in is 0, but guess what? We already plugged in 0 and we got out of 2. So uno, plug in 1, right? And we could do this in our head also. Now think about this. This is 1 squared with the negative in front. It's not negative 1 squared. It's actually 1 squared with the negative in front. So what's 1 squared with the negative in front? That would be negative 1, and negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Okay? All right. So let's go to the coordinate 1, 1. Let's put a dot right there. 1, 1 is right here. Okay? So let's get some more points, because even if I map it over, it's still a very small parabola, right? So let's get some more points. What other point could I get? What other point should I plug in? So we already plugged in 0, which was the easiest. We already plugged in 1. Might as well plug in 2. If we plug in 2, we're going to have 2 squared, right? What's 2 squared? 2 squared is 4 with the negative in front. That's negative 4. And negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So let's go to the coordinate 2, negative 2. That's 2 on the x, negative 2 on the y. Put a dot right here. And of course, I could map that over to the other side. It's 2 units away, so go 2 units this way and you can put the dot right there. And of course, let's extend the line right there. Now you could put an arrow and you're done, or you could go let's do it for kicks. Let's plug in one more. Let's plug in the number 3. So if I were to plug in 3 squared, that gives me a 9 with a negative in front, it's negative 9, plus 2, that would be negative 7. So when I plug in a 3, I get out a negative 7. And if I did go 1, 2, 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm on the edge, that would be my point right there, if you wanted to. So you could, if you wanted to, extend the parabola and make it more accurate all the way down there to those coordinates. Make sense? Anyways, that's your parabola. Shall we try another? Let's do number 3. Let's do number 3. Step 1, what? Vertex, which is a coordinate, and we're going to find that with the formula. Guys, so there's the formula. Let's find the x value. So I'm setting it up with parentheses instead of the b and the a, and then I'm going to get my a value right here, my b value right there, and my c value is negative 5. But anyways, the b value is negative 8. The a value is negative 2. And if I work this out, I get a positive 8 up on top and a negative 4 on the bottom. So x really equals positive 8 divided by negative 4, which equals negative 2. So my x value of my vertex is negative 2. Now my y value I'm going to find out by taking the negative 2 and plugging it back into both x's. So I'm going to rewrite this equation, but instead of x's, I'm going to put parentheses down here. Okay, so now we're going to plug in the answer that we got, which was negative 2. Plug it in right there and right there. And now from here, we need to work it out to find the y value. Let me zoom in, and let's do exponents first. So negative 2 squared, that's positive 4. So we're going to have negative 2 times positive 4, and then negative 8 times negative 2, that's positive 16, and then you bring down the minus 5. So you really have negative 8 plus 16 minus 5. Negative 8 plus 16 is 8. 8 minus 5 is negative, no, not negative, positive 3. 8 minus 5 is positive 3. So what we found here was the y value, this y value is equal to positive 3. So let's go back to the coordinate, the vertex itself. We got the y value of positive 3. Now let's graph the vertex negative 2, positive 3. So let's go to negative 2 and positive 1, 2, 3 and put a dot right here. That is my vertex. And then I need to draw the axis of symmetry right through that vertex. And now, of course, we need more coordinates, so we're going to go to an XY table. And then you got to ask yourself, what's the easiest point to plug in? 0. Whenever you plug in 0, your C value will be your answer, right? 0 squared is 0, negative 2 times 0 is 0, 8 times 0 is 0, 0 take away 0 is 0, minus 5 will give you that C value, negative 5. So the coordinate 0, negative 5 is a point on this parabola. So you go 0, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a dot right there. And the only other thing that you could do is to find the coordinate that belongs right here somewhere. Right? Does that make sense? So it's not just a perfectly straight line. You want to find a coordinate that's at the x value of negative 1. So maybe you want to plug in negative 1. Okay, if I plug in negative 1, let me zoom in and show my work plugging in negative 1 right here. So there's my equation, but I'm plugging in negative 1 and negative 1. And when you do negative 1 squared, that's positive 1, but times negative 2, that will be a negative 2. And then the negative 8 times negative 1, that's going to be a positive 8. And then minus 5, you just bring that down. So when you think of negative 2 plus 8 minus 5, what will that be? That'll be positive 1, right? Positive 1 as your output. So for your input, negative 1, you get an output of positive 1. Okay, that's a negative 1 that we inputted. We got out a positive 1. So if we graph the coordinate negative 1, 1, you're going to get negative 1, 1. It's right here. So if you map that over to the other side of the axis of symmetry, it's 1 unit away. You put the dot right there. And if you take a look at this one, it's 2 units away. So go 2 units this way and put a dot right here. And of course, the only thing left to do is to draw your parabola right through those coordinates. And that's your parabola. You guys have to practice this. You're going to have to do 5 of these on your own on tomorrow's quiz. So number 4, even though it has several instructions, I want you to focus in on the vertex. All right. So how do we find the vertex of this guy? The vertex is a coordinate, and x equals negative b over 2 times a, which means that if you replace it with parentheses, you'll be able to plug in your B and your A value. What's your B value up here? What's your B value? There is no B value, so you put 0 right there for B. How about your A value? 1, right? So negative 0 divided by 2, what's your X actually going to be? 0. So your X value is 0. What's your Y value going to be if your X value is 0? Negative 9. See how easy that is, guys? We found our vertex. There's going to be 3 questions where I ask you to find the vertex. And you do it using the formula, just like that. In addition to that, I might ask you, does this equation have a maximum or minimum value? We know that this A value is positive 1, which means that it opens up if you were to graph it, which means that it has a minimum value. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There's going to be a couple of questions like that on the quiz also. So right here, it's important to be able to state the vertex. The axis of symmetry is just the vertical line right through it. I'm not even going to ask you to write the equation. It would simply be x equals 0 in this case. Let's move on to number 5 here. Let's find the vertex. So the vertex is a coordinate, and there's our formula. Let's replace the letters with parentheses. So our A value is negative 2, our B value is positive 8, our C value is negative 5. So what do I put into the first parenthesis up on top right here? 8. Okay. How about the bottom parenthesis? Negative 2. So what we really have is negative 8 divided by negative 4, so your X value is 2. X value is 2. Make sense? Okay, so if your X value is 2, you're going to have to take that 2 and plug it in right here and right there so you could work it out. I recommend rewriting the whole thing, but putting parentheses instead of X. So there's the whole equation up there, but instead of X's, I have parentheses. Let's plug in that 2 that we found out for X, and let's work it out. So let me just focus in on this right here. If I were to do exponents first, 2 squared is 4, so I really have negative 2 times 4, and then I have plus 16 because 8 times 2 is 16, and minus 5 at the very end. So when I look at negative 2 times 4, that's negative 8, and negative 8, let me write it down here, negative 8 plus 16 minus 5, negative 8 plus 16 is positive 8, so I really end up with positive 8 minus 5, which ends up being 3. Are you with me? So that is your Y value of your vertex, 3. So we found the vertex. Let me ask you this. Is this vertex a maximum value or a minimum value? It's a maximum value. Why? Because if the A value is negative 2, that means that the parabola is opening down, which means that you do have a max value. If you think about it, it goes up, reaches a max height, then it comes back down. So there will be questions just simply as find the vertex and then go back and state if that vertex is a max or min value. Let's move on to the last one here. Actually, since we're running out of time on this video, make sure you practice these guys. The answers will be posted. Going to try to do this one super quick. So the B value is 8, the A value is 2. So we're going to end up with negative 8 over 4, which means that the X value is negative 2. So the X value of your vertex is negative 2. Now let's find the Y value. Notice that I rewrote this equation, but with parentheses. Let's plug in the X value of negative 2. Exponents first, you're going to end up with 2 times 4 minus 16 plus 1. So that's going to be 8 minus 16 plus 1. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. So your vertex Y value is negative 7. So if you go to the coordinate negative 2, negative 7, you're going to end up down here. Then you draw your axis of symmetry. And then, of course, you need an XY table for more coordinates to map it over to the other side, but I ran out of time, so I'm just going to...